everyone, it's Asha. Welcome back to Reading with Asha. I haven't done a sit-down talking video in a long time because I've just been doing read with me videos because it's the holiday season, so it's so cozy. For today's video, I'm going to be telling you guys about some of my favorite books of 2023. So I have 8 books that I chose. I didn't want to make a limit of like 10 or something because I didn't want to choose books that I didn't necessarily really care about that much or that I didn't think about when I thought about what my favorite books were of the year. So I read 50 books this year. These are 8 of the ones that I love the most or had the most impact on me. I definitely wanted to read a lot more books this year, but it happens. It was a bit of a crazy year. I'm so grateful for the reading experiences that I got to have this year and the diversification in my reading, which I will talk about in a little bit once we get into the book. Thank you for being here. If you're new, please subscribe down below. I would absolutely love for you to stick around. We are gonna just start on the books that I love this year. So they're not all in the same category, different genres in no particular order. So the first book that I read and absolutely loved this year was A Gentle Reminder. This is by Bianca Sparacino. And I actually got this one off of Amazon. I saw it on TikTok in like those posts that they just put like quotes from a book or a page of the book in, and I really just wanted to get it and I loved it so much. I actually ended up annotating it. I never really have annotated my books before this year, but I really love this one and so much of it resonated with me at the time, especially that I started reading it, which probably back in like January. So I really love this book. It's kind of just got little reminders, basically, like it says, listen to the part of yourself that knows there's more out there for you, or just like encouraging things in life when you feel really down in any part of life, whether that be in your career, your relationships, etc. It was just super good and uplifting, and I also wanted to mention this because I feel like it would be a great book for someone to get for the new year, just for little encouragements. And I read the whole thing, and I've also been able to send so much of it to friends, family, etc. who have been going through tough things as well. So I really like this book and I recommend it for sure. So next up is one that I kind of read a little bit recently. This is a romance book. I read this in the month of October, and you don't have to read it in October. You could read it at any time, but I read it in October because obviously it's My Roommate is a Vampire, and vampires reminded me of Halloween. It's about a girl named Cassie who is going through a lot of changes in her life, and she needs to move out, and she's looking for an apartment. She sees this apartment on Craigslist, I think, and it says that it's $300 a month, but it's a super nice apartment. She's just like, how can it be so cheap? And so she goes and moves in, and she obviously finds out that her roommate is a vampire. This book was just so funny and witty, and there were so many cute parts in it, and I personally really loved the romance. I know a couple other booktubers really enjoyed this book as well, but I just thought it was so cute and I thought it was so funny. I was like giggling so many times during this book. Romance is not my favorite ever genre. I like romance, but I like romance mixed with like fantasy or a subplot of romance. Typically not just strictly romance, but I really like this one in the storyline, and she's also an artist, an art teacher, or she wants to become an art teacher. So there's just a lot of like really fun little subplots in it, and I just binged this whole book and I would highly recommend it. I think I gave it a 4 stars. So next up is a book that I actually just finished last night, and this was for my book club this month, which is so perfect because it's literally called The Book Club Hotel. It's by Sarah Morgan, who I haven't read any of her books before, but she's a pretty popular author. I work at Barnes & Noble and I see a lot of her books there. But this book was just so cute. It was such a beautiful, wholesome story about friendship, and they all go to this cozy little hotel called the Maple Sugar Inn, and there is a woman who lives there whose name is Hattie, who has gone through the loss of her husband, and she also has a child, and so she's just trying to like run this inn and figure everything out. And then there's 3 other girls who are best friends who go on a yearly book club trip. So this year they went during like Christmas time, which this book has great Christmassy vibes, but I finished it after Christmas and it was still so amazing. But there are 3 characters named Erica, Anna, and Claudia, and they're all going through hard things, changes in their life. The plot starts pretty quickly in this book with everything going up and down. There's just so many like really fun things, but it never gives you anxiety. It's not like a second act breakup or something like that that just kind of is like really, it just flows very nicely, and it was so good. And there is like a little bit of romance in this book. I wouldn't say it's a huge part. I would say it's a lot more about friendship, and everything falls into place so nicely in this book, and I thought it was so good, and I would highly recommend it if you're looking for a cozy read for winter time. This this is perfect before Christmas, around Christmas time as well, but in winter in general, it's just a really great book to read. So I gave this one, I think, a 5 stars because I was like, why wouldn't I? It's so good, so cute, great story about friendship, and I love that. So this is the next book that was one of my favorites of the year. It's Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I really fell into Taylor Jenkins Reid this year because I have read a couple of her books, but not a ton. I've read Daisy Jones and the Six, and then The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is like her most popular book. And I read this around the beginning of the year when I was actually on a trip in Florida, and I read one of her other books, I think literally right before it, which I'm going to talk about that one too. But I just really love her writing and just like the vibes of her books and how it just sucks you in, and how there's so many things going on with different characters, and the character development in her books is so good too. This one has several different characters, but this one had great like beachy summer vibes. Obviously it takes place in Malibu. I really like this book. I think I gave it a 4 or 5 stars. It was just super good, so highly recommend anything by her really, but this was one of my favorites. Next up we have Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas. This is a part of the Throne of Glass series. I read this third in the series. I started with Assassin's Blade, then went to Throne of Glass, and I read this third. This was the first book of the series that really got me hooked, and probably like halfway on I just was so addicted to the story and I finished it so quickly. I think that Throne of Glass, in my opinion, is a lot harder to get into than ACOTAR or even Crescent City because it's a YA and it's definitely more based on politics plot rather than just romance, but there is romance sprinkles in there, so you like hold on to those. But I really like this story now. Like, I'm loving it so far. I'm on Air of Fire now, and this was the first book out of the series that I gave 5 stars, so it's very memorable to me at this point. I'm sure that there will be another book in the series that I love even more because her writing is just so good, but I really loved this story and our main character because Sarah J Maas always just writes the most cool, powerful female main characters, and this one starts off, I think in Assassin's Blade she's 16, and in this one she's like 18 or 19 or something, but it's just so good, and it's like, you go girl. I love it. I love seeing a strong female character, so I really like this one. This was probably the first book of the year that really got me into diverse authors and reading. So I actually read this for one of my classes in college, which was World Literature and Cultures, and it's Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Adichie. I know a lot of people have had to read this book maybe for school or read something by her, but this is a story about a family in Nigeria, and it's just a very interesting kind of coming of age story about our main character, whose name is Kambili. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. It's been a while since I've like discussed this book, so I don't remember if I'm saying it correctly, but her writing is just so beautiful. If you like coming of age novels that surround family and family conflicts, then you would probably really enjoy this story, and I loved it, and I definitely want to read more by this author. But I had never read any type of story that was really set in another country that wasn't like the UK or something. So this one is set in Nigeria, which was really interesting to learn about Nigerian culture like sprinkled in there. But she also wrote the book Americana and Half of a Yellow Sun, which I really want to read both of those books. I'm thinking about getting them and hopefully reading them this year because I just really like this story and love the writing. And I'm so glad my teacher had us read this book for class. So I would highly recommend, if you're wanting to get into like diverse authors, diversify your reading from just romance or fantasy or whatever it might be that you're reading, then I think that this is a great idea for a fictional book, and it's really good. So yeah, highly recommend this one. I gave it a 5 stars. Another book that I had to read for that class, which also diversified my reading and was about a culture that is different than my own, is Crying in Hmart by Michelle Zauner. So she's actually part of a band called Japanese Breakfast, I think, and she is the lead singer. This book was so good. So it's basically her memoir, and it talks a lot about grief and when she lost her mom. So she relates so much stuff to Korean food because that's her heritage, and she talks about Hmart a lot, which I was so hungry when I was reading this book. I wanted to literally eat everything that she talked about, and I also listened to the audiobook for a lot of this one, but I heard so many great things about this when it came out, and when I found out we were reading it for my class, I was so excited. It was definitely a sad book, and it goes into a lot of heavy topics about grief. So if you're currently grieving, I don't know if it would be the best book for you. You can decide yourself, obviously, but I really, really like this memoir and learning about her life and also being Korean. Okay, and the last book that I wanted to talk about, which was one of my favorites for 2023, is Carrie Soda is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I didn't really expect to care about this book that much because it's about tennis and I never really had an interest in tennis, but I think I saw Haley Pham talking about it and how it just makes you want to play tennis, and it's just such an engaging story, and I was like, okay, I really want to read that book, and I really wanted to read more by Taylor Jenkins Reid because she's just such a great author, like I said. So I really, really like this book. I really love the character development of the main character, Carrie Soto, because she's actually kind of unlikable at the beginning of the book, but once you learn more about her and why she's so cocky and stuff, you kind of understand her and relate to her, and this book definitely makes you want to play tennis even if you've never played it before or had any interest in that. It's just really good, definitely a page turner. I think I finished this whole book on an airplane on the way going to like Florida or something, but so good. If you like Taylor Jenkins Reid, highly recommend. If you've never read anything by her, this is a great starter. It was really good, heartwarming, and I even have some of this book annotated, and I was reading this at a time where I hardly annotated books, so that's saying a lot. But those are all of my favorite books of 2023. I hope you guys had a good reading year. If not, I hope you have a better one next year. Even if you read one book this year, that is still amazing. At least you read something. It doesn't have to be 100 books or 200 books or 400, however many, you think that you need to be a successful reader. One book is amazing and you're doing a great job. And comment down below your reading goal for 2024. I think I'm gonna shoot for 70 books, maybe 65 or 70, because this year I think my beginning goal was 70 or 80, but I did not get to read that many books this year because everything was a little bit hectic, but that's okay. I changed my reading goal to 50 and I'm glad that I made that, and that's still a great accomplishment. So yeah, I will see you guys next year. I hope you all have an amazing new year. Thank you for supporting my channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys!